Okie dokie. Imagine you're in a subway right before midnight. Not because of a late shift or anything, I doubt you have a job. The station is empty and also brightly lit because subways tend to have electricity. Suddenly, you hear a voice.
It's always slamming time.
You whip around, but no one's there. You hear the voice again.
It's always slamming time.
Before you can turn around again, it's already too late. The subway slammer has slammed you. You never saw it coming. With the global release of Persona 5 The Phantom X, the standout of that game that I'm sure everyone has seen has been the glorious Subway Slammer. Although, probably a month ago because I'm slow at making videos, the goofy first antagonist of this new gacha game whose entire gimmick is that he just slams people in the subway. Trust me, I know it sounds ridiculous, the memes around this guy have been absolutely hilarious. But between all the funny jokes, I saw some actual criticism for the game's first big bad, talking about how poorly written he is as an antagonist. And while I don't disagree, I personally really love the Subway Slammer as a villain. Why? Well, it's because I fucking hate his guts. So in case you're not familiar with Persona 5, bold choice jumping into a video about a gacha spin-off. But basically the entire premise is that we fight against adults that abuse their power by entering their mind palace and irreversibly altering their brain chemistry so that they confess their crimes. Simple to understand, right? The main game has such despicable characters like an abusive coach that really likes minors, a big name artist that plagiarizes his own students' works, and a corrupt politician who assassinates his competition. Some real terrible people. Persona 5 does a great job of investing you by making you absolutely hate the villains. The Subway Slammer, in my humble opinion, also does this really well, but kind of in the opposite direction. Let's bring back the coach, Kamoshida. If you want to know why this teacher is so easy to hate, this guy was abusing the volleyball team he was in charge of, including a certain high school girl, to the point that she decided to jump off the roof. To pop the cherry on top, when confronted, Kamoshida showed absolutely no remorse for what he did to that girl. You see this and think, yep, this guy is evil, we gotta get rid of him. Adding to the fact that the girl who jumped was best friends with one of the main characters, along with another main character who had their legs broken by the same villain, and we have the perfect motivation to absolutely obliterate Kamoshida. We hate Kamoshida because of how dangerous he is, how cruel he is. You're probably thinking that I'll apply the same logic to the Subway Slammer, which is definitely an angle I can take, but that's not exactly what I have in mind. While I'm sure you can argue night and day about whether the Subway Slammer is a knockoff of Kamoshida, there's definitely a few similarities between the two. They're both ex-pro athletes that became coaches, Kamoshida as the high school volleyball coach, and the Subway Slammer as a temporary Little League's baseball coach. They're both physically abusive towards their targets, taking advantage of how they're much stronger than those around them, and both their palaces are themed after lust. Which makes sense for Kamoshida because of the whole minor thing, but Subway Slammer, we'll get into that a bit later. The most obvious similarity would be their main victims, the one that has a personal connection with the villain and our main character. With Kamoshida, it would be Ann Takamaki, the friend of Shiho Suzui who jumped off the roof, along with Ryuji Sakamoto, who had his leg curb stomped because of the track team that Ryuji was the ace of was overshadowing Kamoshida's volleyball team. With the Subway Slammer, we have Motoha Arai and Tomoko Noge. See, the Subway Slammer decided to target Motoha for one of his daily slams, but Tomoko, a rising baseball star that was getting scouted for her skills, which is definitely not a death flag or anything, sees this and decides to slam Motoha instead. Not because she's fallen to the dark side or anything, but because she is sacrificing herself and taking the Subway Slammer's slam in her place. Now, seeing this, there's probably two things going through your head. First, holy shit, he sent Tomoko flying! Like, damn, she just went right over the barrier! How strong was that slam? If we calculate the force it would take to achieve this feat, we would first divide the average weight of a Japanese high school girl with the height of the average train barrier, multiply this number with the aura the Subway Slammer exudes when he enters slamming time, and we get a final number of 30 megatons of power, equal to a nuclear warhead, and that is him trying to hold back against weak and brittle humans. The only reason Tomoko was able to survive such a slam was because when she slammed Motoha, she leveled up her persona and gained the Endure ability, which allows you to withstand any attack with 1 HP remaining. Trust me, I'm an expert on power scaling, I've watched every episode of Death Battle. The second thing you might be thinking is, wow, I hate this guy. We've just gotten Motoha's and Tomoko's backstory, where Motoha quit baseball due to an unfortunate accident, and Tomoko tells us that she continues to play baseball and hopes that she can one day play with Motoha again. So sweet, so tragic, all of that being ruined by the Subway Slammer, as due to the 3-meter-ish drop that she endured after being slammed onto the track, her shoulder gets absolutely ruined to the point that she can never play baseball again. Which is starting to sound similar to how one might feel against Kamoshida, albeit possibly still laughing at the idea of the Subway Slammer slamming in the subways.
俺もぶつかり放題ってわけだ。
But there's also a third thing going through my head during this moment. Man, this guy is pathetic. Before all this happens, when we first meet the Subway Slammer, Wonder, our main character, gets a vision of the future where we see the Subway Slammer no diff a mother and a baby down some stairs, which unfortunately results in the baby dying. Now, whether the scene fills you with anger or has you laughing like a psychopath, you may have realized that this guy only goes after easy targets. Like when it comes down to people that won't fight back, a literal baby is probably at the top of that list. We even have the famous saying, it's like slamming a baby down the subway stairs. Soon we find out that the Subway Slammer only ever goes after women that look like they won't fight back. Like when he accidentally slams Wonder, a guy, the Subway Slammer just politely apologizes. When Wonder again appears to help another lady the Subway Slammer slams, he just runs away with his tail tucked between his legs. You're probably starting to realize how sad this person truly is. We even have a lore reason for why no one fights back, or at least reports him, because the world Phantom X takes place in, everyone's desires are being taken away because of something happening in the metaverse, which makes them all basically have no will to do anything, let alone stand up for themselves. That's the reason why the Subway Slammer is able to get away with it, even though his actions, while silly, could potentially cause serious injury or even death. He's basically doing the Japanese version of a sucker punch. It's actually a real thing that happens in Japan, even has its own name, Butsukari. I completely understand why people aren't able to take the Subway Slammer seriously. I haven't been either. I haven't even mentioned that his real name is Takayuki Kyuchi. The way they portray this man is simultaneously rage-inducing as well as the funniest thing I've seen from a Persona game. But I do wonder if some of that silliness is deliberate, that we are supposed to be laughing at this guy, we're supposed to see this man as the piss baby that he is, only able to find fulfillment in being a minor inconvenience, only becoming a dangerous figure once he realizes that no one will actually stop him. I think what really nails this idea for me is his backstory with Motoha, the girl he was originally targeting instead of Tomoko. See, once we get into the palace, we find out that these two have a past. I mentioned before that Kyuchi was a temporary coach. The reason why a professional athlete was even coaching in the first place was due to a slump in his career. Motoha, when she was but a little girl, was actually one of Kyuchi's students, and she looked up to him greatly. However, when Motoha hit one of Kyuchi's best pitches, he ended up getting injured and had to retire. which caused Motoha to feel so guilty that she quit baseball altogether. That story is a lie. At least part of it was. Yes, Motoha did hit one of Kyuchi's best pitches. She was a little baseball prodigy back in the day, but the only injury that hit caused was towards his fragile pride. During Kyuchi's slump, he actually got in trouble for a harassment scandal, taking advantage of a hostess at a bar he frequently drank at. In order to save face and protect what little he had of his broken ego, he covered up the scandal by saying that he was retiring due to an injury caused by Motoha. Instead of owning up to his mistakes, he blamed his downfall on her and the woman he harassed, finally giving us the reason why he is the owner of the Palace of Lust. This man is nothing but a misogynistic wet wipe. The only reason he's shoving women is because he blames all his problems on a little girl and a lady he forced himself on, taking it out on women because he can't own up to the fact that he's a narcissistic piss stain of a human being that deserves to be tossed out like a used condom. I think Motoha puts it best when describing Kyuchi.
あの週刊誌の報道で私がどれだけ後悔したか、どれだけ苦しんでどれだけ大切なものを捨ててきたか。しかも何、そこから女の人を軽視して卑怯なぶつかりするようになって、それで支配するとか何様だっての。
The Subway Slammer, in my opinion, is a great first antagonist for Persona 5 The Phantom X. Not because he's dangerous like Kamoshida, although that's definitely part of it, but because this worthless man-child that probably wears diapers because he can't clean up after himself gave me the same emotions of wanting to wipe someone from the face of the earth like Kamoshida. I hate him because he is a spineless little skid mark that can't help but throw a temper tantrum whenever he approaches a woman's only train car. And if an antagonist can elicit such strong emotions from me, then personally I think they did a pretty good job writing them. Now, am I saying the Subway Slammer is perfectly written? No. I think people overblow how badly he's written, but I also think the way the story executed certain parts could have been refined, made to be less goofy. But at the end of the day, if Takayuki Kyuchi didn't have that goofiness, we wouldn't have gotten all those amazing memes out of it. So if you were to ask me whether I would change anything about the Subway Slammer, my answer would be no. Anyways, wouldn't it be funny if, like, halfway through making this video, this game just went to shit?